The ocean lay quiet as a massive Japanese destroyer slowed to a crawl. Its captain, bound by Bushido, walked to the railing and stared into the oil-slicked water where broken rafts and dying men struggled. Instead of ordering them killed, he snapped his heels together and saluted. He saluted the men he had fought, because he knew he had not faced a mere ship. He had fought a ghost.
To understand why an enemy would honor the very men he fought to destroy, we go back to the morning of October 25, 1944. The Philippines, the Battle of Leyte Gulf. It began as a routine day for Taffy 3, a small group of escort carriers and their guardians, destroyers. These were not fleet destroyers built to challenge battleships. They were tin cans, unarmored, thin-hulled, so fragile a machine gun round could pass straight through. Commanding one of these tin cans, the USS Johnston, was Ernest Evans. He was intense, barrel-chested, and part Cherokee and Creek. When he took command, he told his crew, "This is going to be a fighting ship. I intend to go in harm's way, and anyone who doesn't want to come along had better leave now." No one left. None realized that harm's way meant charging straight into hell. The morning unfolded into disaster. The main American fleet had been lured away by a decoy. The great door to the landing beaches, where thousands of American troops depended on supplies, was wide open. Marching straight through that door came the Japanese center force, not patrol boats, 4 battleships, including the mammoth 70,000-ton Yamato, 6 heavy cruisers, and 11 destroyers. A hammer that could shatter anything. At 6:45 a.m., a scout plane shouted, "Enemy fleet! I can see the pagoda masts." Evans could see them too. On the horizon, giant splashes of colored dye marked the Japanese shells. The sky turned purple, green, yellow. Not sunrise, but death. Physics mocked the Johnston's odds. The Yamato could hit targets from 20 miles. Johnston's guns had to get within 10 miles to matter. Evans had to steer his unarmored ship directly into a storm of steel that outweighed him 50-1. Most commanders would run. Evans did not. His voice came over the intercom. "All hands to battle stations. Flank speed. Left full rudder." He turned the Johnston toward the enemy. Alone. The destroyer surged, lifting its bow as her engines screamed. Shells tore the air, their wake knocking sailors off their feet. Evans weaved, dodging the splashes, drawing the fury of the Japanese away from the vulnerable carriers. At 10,000 yards, he shouted, "Commence firing!" Johnston erupted, firing so fast the barrels glowed. The shells could not pierce armor, but they smashed bridges and set fires. They punched the bully in the nose. But Evans had something stronger, torpedoes, 10 of them. To use them, he had to get close. He pushed even nearer. A heavy cruiser, Kumano, loomed ahead. "Fire torpedoes!" Johnston turned away. Seconds dragged. Then a colossal blast tore off Kumano's bow. Johnston cheered. The giant had bled. Then the giants struck back. 3 14-inch shells tore through Johnston. The ship shook like a car crash. The radar vanished. The steering engine was shredded. The deck and bridge were torn apart. Evans lost 2 fingers. His shirt was blasted off. He should have died. Instead, he wrapped his mangled hand, staggered to the manual steering gear, and shouted commands. Bleeding, shirtless, ankle-deep in smoke, he steered his burning ship by voice. Johnston limped but refused retreat. Evans placed his broken destroyer between the carriers and the Japanese fleet. He saw a battleship aim at the carriers and charged it. He saw Japanese destroyers lining up torpedo shots and drove across their path, spoiling their attack. He had no torpedoes, almost no ammunition, only will. The Japanese destroyers closed in, pouring fire. The mast snapped. The deck became a slaughterhouse. At 9:45, the engines died. Evans ordered, "Abandon ship." But he stayed. The men floated in oil and debris, watching their ship roll over. The Japanese destroyer Yukikaze cruised past. They braced for gunfire. Instead, Japanese sailors lined the rail. Their captain saluted the dying wreck. Courage recognized courage. Evans was never seen again. But look at what his men bought. Admiral Kurita, aboard Yamato, believed he faced the main American fleet. He feared massive airstrikes if he pressed forward. So instead of rampaging toward helpless landing forces, he turned north. He retreated. The American invasion was saved, not by great battleships, but by a tin can steered by a shirtless commander who refused to yield. The survivors drifted for days, fighting thirst and sharks. When rescued, they carried a legend. Ernest Evans received the Medal of Honor. His story embodies a truth. Patriotism is not a song or a symbol. It is behavior. It is the moment when every instinct screams to turn right, and a man turns left into fire to shield others. They were not supermen. They were ordinary sailors, some barely out of high school, some fathers dreaming of home. Before dawn, they drank weak coffee, joked about mail, and worried about finishing another routine patrol. And then the universe changed. They faced battleships whose shells were longer than their dining tables and heavier than motorcycles. Yet they did not freeze. Training held. Brotherhood held. After Johnston's first strike, the other tin cans followed. USS Hole and USS Heermann joined the charge, launching torpedoes, firing their small guns, selling their lives not for glory, but for minutes, precious minutes that the carriers used to escape. Pilots from those carriers, armed with nothing more than machine guns and tiny bombs, dove at cruisers, trying to distract them. Some rammed with empty guns, willing to die just to make the enemy flinch. There was chaos everywhere: smoke, roaring water, shouts, flames, the screech of twisting metal. Yet inside it all, a strange clarity existed. Men found purpose. They fought not for strategy or geopolitics, but for the friend beside them. When a gun jammed, someone cleared it. When a man collapsed, someone pulled him aside and stepped into his place. The triumph was not victory, but solidarity. The survivors drifted in the ocean for days, clinging to rafts, fighting off thirst and sharks. When they were finally rescued, they carried a story that would become legend. Ernest Evans was awarded the Medal of Honor posthumously. His citation reads like a myth, but it was real. We often talk about patriotism as a concept, arguing about what it means. But look at the water off Samar. Patriotism isn't a flag. It isn't a song. Patriotism is a behavior. It is the specific mechanical action of turning a rudder left toward the enemy when every survival instinct in your brain is screaming to turn right. It is the willingness to be the shield. Those men on the Johnston knew they were going to die. It wasn't a guess, it was a calculation. They calculated that their death could buy time, and time meant life for the boys on the beaches. There is a brotherhood in that sacrifice that transcends generations. It's the same spirit that was at Valley Forge, at Gettysburg, and in the valleys of Afghanistan. It's the spirit that says, "Not on my watch." Commander Evans didn't fight because he hated the Japanese. He fought because he loved the men behind him. And that is the only definition of a patriot that matters. The wreck of the Johnston was found recently, sitting deeper than the Titanic. It is smashed, broken, and twisted. But if you could go down there, into the crushing dark, you wouldn't feel sadness. You would feel voltage. You would feel the lingering static of a fighting spirit that refused to break. We walk free today because men like Evans walked into the fire. Let's not forget them. Let's not let their names fade into the archives. If you believe these stories deserve to be told, share this with someone who needs to hear it. I'll be here, digging through the ashes of history, waiting to bring you the next piece of the American soul. Stay vigilant.